the November 12th, 2024 open meeting of the Hopkinton Conservation Commission being conducted remotely consistent with an act extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency. The new law authorizes all members of a public body to continue participating in meetings remotely. The open meeting law's requirement that a quorum of the body and the chair be physically present at the meeting location remains suspended. For this meeting, the Hopkinton Conservation Commission is convening by video conference via Zoom app as posted on the town's web meeting calendar and the Conservation Commission agenda identifying how the public may join. Additionally, the meeting may also be broadcast by HCAM through one or many of its channels or platforms. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and that some attendees are participating by video conference. Accordingly, please be aware that others may be able to see you and take care not to screen share your computer. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. Supporting materials that have been provided to the members of the commission for this meeting are available on the town's website. This meeting will feature public comment. After commission members and staff have discussed each project application on the agenda, the chair will open the discussion to public comment. Members of the public who wish to speak are asked to identify their name and address. 3 minutes will be afforded for each public comment. Each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted via roll call of the members. So I will now confirm which commission members are present. And myself, Melissa Recas, Jim Cirillo present. Oh, that's right. Annie, you said he's gonna miss this meeting.
Correct.
Ted.
Ed Barker Hook is
Barker.
present.
Ed Harold.
Ed is here.
Janine. Here. Matt Moyen.
Present.
Heather Burton.
Present.
All right, and then I will now confirm that staff are present. Kim, we have you tonight for a bonus round.
I'm here.
All right. Judy.
Hi, present.
Day present. Anna.
Present.
Rogers and Joe.
Present.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, so before we get into the agenda, I'll just point out that we have a couple items that have been continued. The Hopkinton Stone and Garden 28 Lumber Street notice of intent has been continued, request by the applicant to November 26th, so we will not be discussing that tonight. Also, Wall Street Development, 12 North Mill Street, the informal discussion has been moved to December 17th. So that will not be discussed tonight either. So, all right. That being said, I'll go to the work session items. We don't have documents for review other than the draft minutes, September 10th, 2024, which I think were recently posted. So does anyone have any questions, comments, or not had enough time to review those minutes?
This is Ed. I have not reviewed them.
Okay. Is everyone else all set? Or we can continue those, Ed, to next meeting. So you have a chance to take a look. Is that all right, Anna?
Through the chair, yeah, that's okay.
Okay. All right. Next on the agenda, we have Burton 178 Ash Street request for certificate of compliance continuation. So I believe we have Mr. Burton on the line.
I'm here.
Welcome. Would you like to give us an update since last meeting?
Certainly. I sent some pictures in.
Created a little berm at the end of the driveway to deflect water onto the lower part of the yard. Up to the left in one of the other pictures is the berm itself. Did a flow test, dropped a couple of 5-gallon buckets of water into the center of the driveway, and it sheds off to the left with a 2-degree pitch off the driveway. I can't really do anything about the fact that it hasn't rained much in 2 months, but it seems pretty complete now. And there's no erosion and there's no pollution.
Okay. All right. Yep, definitely haven't had any rain. Doesn't look like there's any in the forecast, so I understand, the interest in trying to get this buttoned up sooner rather than later. So at this point in time, that was the biggest concern was whether, I think originally the plan had a berm across the whole asphalt driveway to deflect the water from getting into the road. And that's what we were concerned about when we looked at this last time. Does anyone from the commission have questions, comments on the mitigation here, I guess I would say, that's been implemented as opposed to what was originally approved on the plan and what we need to do here to close this out?
Through the chair, this is Ed.
Yes, Ed.
If we approve this, and it looks, I mean, I have fair confidence in Jim's work that it will do as he says, but suppose we approve it and we end up with ice on Ash Street at the end of his driveway. Does that put us in any predicament?
I believe once we approve and close it out, I don't think we have much recourse for action. So, if that answers your question, Ed. I think the certificate of compliance is kind of the last teeth we have in holding an applicant to, what was approved and what we're looking for to protect resource area and I know that DPW was concerned about water coming down, the driveway onto the street here. But yeah, other than just, taking a vote, I think the applicant is ready to be done here. So I think it's either we approve what's here or we don't and go back to the original design. I think that being said, we'll just go ahead and put it to a vote for the commission. So can I get a motion to approve and close out this order of conditions?
Through the chair, if you're looking for a motion, I'll make that motion.
Thanks, Ed. Second. All right. So we're gonna go down and do a roll call on this. All in favor, say aye. Ed?
If that was Ed, I'm an aye. If it was Ted.
It was Ed.
Oh,
You're
okay.
first every time now, Ed.
Well, I know, but the last time you didn't do me first, so you threw me for a loop. So
Sorry.
I'm an aye.
Ted,
That is an aye.
Janine,
Aye.
Matt,
Aye.
Heather,
Aye.
and I'm gonna give it a no. So with that majority rules, you are all set, Mr. Burton.
Excellent. What's the process moving forward? I have to file something with the registry of deeds.
Through the
Um,
chair.
Yep, go ahead, Anna.
So in 2 weeks at the next meeting, the commission will review the document, authorize signature, and then I will email you the directions.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Next up, we have Toll Brothers, Elmwood Farm, Newberry Glen discussion on condition number 69. We have someone, oh, we have someone here from
Yes.
Toll Brothers. Yes.
Rich Kirby from LEC is here. I believe Ted Merchant may be on the line. Ted, you still there? Maybe not. I know he had another hearing tonight. He might have had to jump off.
Okay.
So I'm Rich Kirby from LEC, and Toll Brothers hired us to oversee and monitor the installation of the wetland replication area that was approved by the commission for the Newberry Glen subdivision off of Blueberry Lane in Hopkinton. The wetland replication area was approved to be a 7,800 square foot expansion of an isolated wetland within the southern portion of the site. And so LEC's been working with the site contractor and the landscape contractor to get this installed this fall. We were out there a number of times between the end of October and the first part of November to oversee the layout of the wetland replication area. We modified it slightly to preserve some large trees that didn't quite make it on. Some of them didn't make it onto the previous plan. Ran that by Kim in a discussion and followed up with a memo, basically just overviewing. We're gonna keep the trees in this area and expand the replication area elsewhere. That memo talked about 3 trees, and over the course of the installation, we found 2 more that we could also preserve. I'll get into the methods briefly for a moment, but as it turns out, we are well over our the 7,800 with nearly 8,500 square feet, while preserving 5 large trees as a result of the reconfiguration. So all of this is outlined in a memorandum that I produced tonight, but basically the order of conditions and the approved plan specified that we use the soils within the wetland alteration area for the wetland replication area. We looked at the soils within the wetland that was altered, and it was really just a thin veneer of topsoil, just a few inches thick, fair amount of root matting and boulders in that wetland soil. And if you use an excavator to try and scrape off that top few inches, the teeth of the excavator are thicker than the soil. So you'd end up mixing a lot with the subsoil and you'd lose the organic integrity of that soil. So we ended up going with using topsoil from the site, a pretty organic, rich topsoil, but we mixed it 1-to-1 with leaf compost and used that mixture to create the wetland soil for the replication area. And that was, of course, applied after excavating by about 2 feet to get to the appropriate subgrade. We observed redoxamorphic concentrations within the subgrade, and were able to confirm that we intercepted the groundwater. The topsoil was then backfilled within the area to a depth of 12 inches, and the plants were installed. All the plants that were specified on the plan were delivered. Some of them were a little smaller than that specified on the plan, but in my experience, it can be challenging to obtain plant stock in that size that are native and available. So most of them were pretty good. There were arrowwood viburnums that were between 6 and 12 inches tall coming out of the pot. So we rejected those. And the landscape contractor got some replacement shrubs that were appropriately sized. This is a photograph of some of the staging that we did of the plants. At this point, all the plants are installed. The buffer zone seed mixture for the access road has been installed. The only thing that remains is the wetland seed mix and some straw to stabilize the soil over the winter and early spring months. That wetland seed mix was ordered for FedEx delivery tomorrow. The seed mix and the straw will be applied tomorrow. That's my understanding. So that's where we stand. We know the order of conditions requires that the wetland replication area be installed prior to the issuance of any building permits. We are 99% there, and we'll be 100% there tomorrow after the landscaper applies the wetland seed. So that's all overviewed in a memorandum that we submitted this afternoon, and I just wanted to go over it with the commission and be available to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
I guess first I'll open it up to Anna and Joe, if you had any, and Kim, Judy, if you had any comments in addition to what Rich just went over.
Through the chair.
Sure.
Yeah, thank you, Melissa. So I had asked Toll Brothers to come in and just verify with you guys that the commission is satisfied with how the replication area is based on condition number 69 in the order, as Rich was explaining. It states that the replication area must be constructed at the same time or prior to the wetland alteration, which has happened. The replicated wetland must be constructed in full and conditionally approved prior to the construction of any structures. So Toll Brothers has submitted that first set of building permit applications, and the building inspectors have been holding off on them until the commission, either staff or you guys, have been satisfied that this condition has been met. So I did ask Toll Brothers to come in and just make a brief presentation to you guys. And at this point, staff, unless Kim or Judy feels otherwise, or Joe, we are recommending the release of the building permits and feel that the condition has been substantially completed at this time based on the information provided.
Okay. So then obviously we'll come back in the spring and keep monitoring, make sure the plants, survive the winter and the seed continues growing. Is that correct?
You are correct. LEC is under contract with Toll Brothers to perform all monitoring services as it's required in the order conditions, and we'll be preparing those regular reports that the order of conditions requires as well.
Okay. Does anyone on the commission have any follow-up questions, concerns on this one?
This is Ed, through the chair.
Sure. Ed.
Is it possible to approve this subject to the final steps being completed tomorrow, such that they would have to come to the office and tell Anna, yes, we have done the seeding, we've done the other work that we need to do to have this be done?
I think that's a good suggestion, Ed. I'd defer to Anna if you're okay with that, and maybe taking a look before the building inspector proceeds.
Through the chair, we can do that. I know Judy and I have some site visits scheduled for Friday morning, so we can make this one of our stops to swing by and take a look at on Friday morning.
Okay.
I can also, I'm happy to forward along photographs. I'm going to be out there, or me or someone from my office will be out there tomorrow after the seeding and straw application is completed. We'll take some representative photographs, forward you receipts for the wetland seed mix, and that way everything will be complete and it'll be on record with the commission.
That'd be great if you could do that. Thank you. All right, so then can I go ahead and get
Through the
motion?
chair,
Yes, Kim.
just recommending that the commission state for the record that the commission recognizes that this condition is not completely fulfilled, as it states that the wetland replication area must be constructed in full, but will allow the applicant to move forward with the building permits, while also recognizing that approval tonight does not constitute final approval of the mitigation area.
Gotcha.
For the record.
Thank you, Kim. for those
You're
words.
welcome.
Would someone like to make the motion according to Kim's suggestion?
So moved.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
All right, and I will go through our names here, starting with Ed.
So I still have a question. Does that mean that we will get proof from Rich and LEC? I would be happy with photographs in Anna's hands that says this is done. And as long as we have that as a stipulation, I'm good.
Yes, I was,
That was part of my motion.
I was thinking that.
Yes.
Janine for clarifying. Okay, so Ed, you are an I with that clarification?
Yes,
Okay. Ted,
Aye.
Janine,
Aye.
Matt,
Aye.
Heather,
Aye.
and I'm an I.
Thank you so much, everyone. Appreciate it. And as far as I know, I'll have those photographs and receipt to you tomorrow. If it spills into Thursday, then I'll let Anna know.
Awesome.
Okay.
And I
Thank you.
think, Melissa, obviously the discretion of the commission, but I think at this point, Ted and Toll Brothers, has an understanding that the commission expects the mitigation area to be completed before issuing certificates of compliance on any of these lots.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Awesome.
Thanks, everyone.
Yep, thank you.
Thanks for doing this.
Of course. Have a good night.
Okay. All right, being that it is 7:22, let's jump up to the new hearings. And let me grab my hearing notices. So first up, we have an RDA for 60 North Mill Street. So let me read this before we get into it. The Hopkinton Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, November 12th, 2024 at 7 p.m. virtually online to hear all persons interested in a request for determination of applicability filed by Salil Shindi to replace a failed septic system with associated site work. Location 60 North Mill Street, Assessor's Map, R26, Block 18, Lot 0. All right.
Dan McIntyre is here representing the homeowner.
Hi, Dan. Welcome. Do you want to give us a
Sure.
breakdown here?
So this lot was developed back in 1985. The current system is starting to surcharge to the ground and needs to be replaced. So to orientate you, North Mill Street is over on the left-hand side. There's a well in the front yard. The existing septic system is in the backyard. There's a septic tank right here and some leaching trenches going through the backyard. We had wetlands delineated by Goddard Consulting, which takes up quite a bit of the lot over here. So just about the entire lot is within the buffer zone. The only practical place to replace the septic system is right back where it is now. So we're proposing to take out the existing system, put in a new system, new septic tank. And because of the groundwater conditions, we're mounding the backyard up a little bit. So we're going to need a pump tank to make this all work. So we've got, as I said, we're mounting this up a couple of feet. We're grading it back down within the existing lawn area. And we're proposing to limit the grading and the lawn to some large rocks here and try to take back some of the lawn area that got close to the wetlands and turn that into a no-mow area.
Mm-hmm.
probably the biggest impact might be the construction access. The only way to get to the backyard is to come down the paved driveway and around this side of the garage. There's a retaining wall here and a very large boulder. And then there's a tree here. There was a tree here. We can talk about that in a moment. That need to come down for the trucks to make the access through here. In the back, we're proposing to take down one tree here for two reasons. One, the grading is going to be filling up over the trunk, which we didn't think was good, but probably more important than that, when we dug this test pit here, the root system of this tree was all through the backyard. And we didn't want that to interfere with the new septic system, so we proposed to take this tree down. So as Lucas found out when they did their site walk, the homeowner kind of jumped the gun a bit here because he's anxious to get this work done and took down a couple of the trees prior to the hearing.
Okay.
Is that one tree there?
Hang on, not loading very well.
Okay.
Sorry.
So on this one here, they took down, back.
Sorry, it's so weird. It's showing on my end, and then I know once I drag it into Zoom, it's not happy.
Okay, we'll take your word for it.
Okay.
Through the chair.
Yes.
Kim, the pictures that were in Dan's memo that he submitted this morning, I think he shows kind of what was cut, what wasn't. I think they're still standing, but that showed a good one. I don't know if that might help.
Okay. I'll see if I can find it. Yeah.
It's in his response.
Yeah, we had some photos from earlier this year that showed the actual trees standing. But this one was cut and they ground the stump down. This tree is still standing and the homeowner is hoping that the contractor can fit his equipment between the boulder and the tree because he doesn't want to take that one down. And then this one has come down as well. There's a small tree here that he had relocated already. Oh, there we go.
Oh, there we go.
So that this top picture is a view from the driveway. North Mill Street's behind us. These are the two trees that we were proposing to take down for construction access. The one closest to us has come down. The one in the background is still up, with the homeowner's hope that the contractor can get his construction vehicles in there. The bottom picture is in the backyard. The tree in the back there is proposed to come down, has already been taken down. The septic system is over on the right-hand side. You can kind of see, you put in an approximate line where we've got to put a line of boulders and create a no-mow area there. And then when the tree contractor was out there, they noticed this dead tree in the foreground. So they took that down as well.
Okay. Okay.
So I think with that, I think we can open up to questions. That I don't really have much more to explain.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Dan. Joe, do you want to jump in with any additional comments from your memo?
Yeah, sure. I think Dan hit most of the points I had raised regarding just explaining what was going on with the trees. I did also note that there was an area near wetland flags, GCA 15 to 17, where the leaves are being piled within about 10 feet of the wetland. Just recommended that a different location be found for the leaf piling.
Okay.
I did review the delineation, didn't have any major concerns with it. As was described for the mitigation,
they're proposing to allow about a 500 square foot area of existing lawn to revegetate naturally. I thought the Conservation Commission might want to discuss if some plantings would be appropriate in that area, considering that they are cutting down a couple of trees. I had asked about any soil stockpile locations, and the response was that they don't anticipate any significant stockpiles. And other than that, no real issues.
Okay. So this is an RDA application, so we're looking to consider whether we agree this falls under an RDA, and I personally like your suggestion, Joe, for replanting a couple trees in that no mow area to establish it a little bit more of a buffer zone. Dan, do you know if the applicant would be amenable to that?
Well, I did talk to him. We really don't think trees are appropriate.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at the plan, there are still 2 mature trees. We've got a wetland medallion going to be attached to one of them, and there's another tree here that provides really good overstory of that no mow area.
Yep.
And if you went on site and looked at it close, it's more of a mossy area than a lawn area, so it doesn't
Okay.
get much sunlight in there. So I think we got plenty of tree canopy for the wetland down there. So we don't think trees are appropriate.
Okay.
Through the chair.
Yes, Anna.
Dan, what about a couple of shrubs?
I didn't think you would ask. Yeah, the homeowner is amenable to some shrubs in there if the commission so desired.
Okay. I do appreciate the wetland medallions too. I think that's a good addition to the property. Hopefully, helping with that leaf piling issue as well. Does anyone anyone else in the commission have comments or questions on this? Thoughts?
This is Ed, and I have a dumb question. I'm assuming there's no possibility for the septic system to be put in the front yard.
No, that's where the well is, Ed.
That reminds me of a joke.
Okay.
Yeah, Melissa, quick question. Obviously, I'm still only been around for about a year. Is it commonplace for the commission to go just with an RDA for work within 50 feet of a resource area? It's not considered a minor activity under our bylaw.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we I think on these type of applications, and Kim and Anna and Gina and I were talking about this a little bit. In this situation, you're right. Within the 50-foot, we certainly could require notice of intent. So that's part of the question here. I think it is at our discretion though, and Kim, you can jump in here if you like, but I think it's up to the commission as to whether this project can be done without impacting the wetland.
Through the chair.
Yep, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean the question that the commission is being asked with an RDA is, do you feel that this work is going to result in an impact to resource areas, or can it be considered, no net effect, a negative? So, the line between an RDA and an NOI is really usually the commission's discretion. That being said, the commission has in the past kind of held obviously a higher standard for that 50-foot no disturb. It's up to you guys.
we feel that like I said, this was constructed in 1985. It's all previously disturbed in that 50-foot no buffer zone or no disturb zone that we have now. The applicant really has no alternatives to doing this. And we feel that by bringing that lawn area back in and creating a no-mow area, we're leaving it better than we found it.
Melissa,
Yes, Ted.
I have a question for the applicant. If we were to approve the RDA, how soon would work begin?
I think they would like to start it as soon as possible. Right now, they're kind of on a pumping schedule in their septic tank. So that's kind of why the homeowner jumped the gun on the trees, and they want to get somebody out there right away. It's already been approved by the Board of Health.
For the commission's benefit, I ask because we're still in this period of it doesn't rain anymore, and I would be less concerned about being within the 50-foot during this very, very dry time we have. So that's where my question came from.
Thanks, Ted. No, that's helpful. I think because it's true, we do have to weigh whether it's a RDA or an NOI. But I think in this situation, I agree with you, Ted. I think, especially since of the type of the project, it's all within previously disturbed area. I don't think there's too much of a threat to the wetland, and I think there are improvements that are being proposed. I would like to see the bushes added to that no-mow area.
We can revise the plan. We'll show put together a planting table and resubmit the plan.
Okay.
Do you have a sense, or the commission have a sense of how many bushes in that area? 3, 6, something like that.
I think so. We had 3 trees. 3 trees were taken down. Maybe 6.
Okay.
If anyone else has thoughts, please jump in. That's just my.
Through the chair.
Yeah, go ahead, Kim.
Typically, what we recommend is 6 to 8 feet on center, per the inland replication guidelines. Just as a general rule of thumb. So I'm not sure how that math's out there, but it might be similar. It's not a very big area.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Through the chair, this is Ed. Maybe high bush blueberries, which would typically be found in a place like that.
Okay, I like those. Do you want some variety or just all high bush?
Through the chair, I think that diversity is better, so I would suggest some other, apparently it's a shaded area, so probably some shade-loving natives.
Okay.
Okay. Anyone from the public have any comments on this? Questions? All right. So with that, Anna, should we wait for the updated plan to vote on this?
Through the chair, that is the
Good.
typical procedure. And then at the next meeting in 2 weeks, we will have a jump. So we'll try to get the RDA drafted.
Okay. Does that work for you, Dan?
Sure.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Through the chair, can we just have a vote to continue to November 26th, please?
Yes. Can I get a motion for that?
I'll make that motion.
And can I get a second?
Second.
All right. In favor, Ed,
Aye.
Ted,
Aye.
Janine,
Aye.
Matt,
Aye.
Heather,
Aye.
and I am an I. All right. Next up, we have Town of Hopkinton DPW Granite Street right of way. It's another RDA application for wells. Let me go ahead and read this. Public hearing notice. The Hopkinton Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, November 12th, 2024 at 7 p.m. virtually online to hear all persons interested in a request for determination of applicability filed by Hopkinton DPW for exploratory geotechnical borings. Location Granite Street right away between 4 Granite Street and 2 Deer Run. All right, so do we have representative here from
Yes.
DPW? Okay,
Members of the commission, good evening. My name is Lucas Rum of Ty and Bond, and I'll be representing the DPW this evening. So we are seeking a negative determination of applicability for a set of 2 geotechnical borings within Granite Street in advance of project planning for a proposed culvert replacement. So as you'll note on the plan, we currently have 4 proposed locations marked out. Well, that's just so that when our crew goes to the field, they will be able to select the best 2 locations just based on site conditions. So we are seeking a minor exemption as the proposed work is for planning and design purposes and is temporary in nature. So crews will go out, conduct the 2 borings, and then that same day they will use cold patch asphalt to seal those locations and leave as is, with all proposed work occurring within the footprint of the existing Granite Street. We did note Lucas Environmental's review. They had some concerns about the wash generated from our proposed activities. So for that, we are proposing to pump all wash into the surrounding upland areas to dispose of it outside of the wetland resources and cause no impacts. So with that, I think that's my general overview. If the commission has any questions.
okay. So in response to your comment in discharging the wash water upland, where exactly would that, so you'd have to go a little bit of a ways to dispose of that wash water, it looks like?
Correct. Right. We would have to pump it a good distance if the town is amenable to that. But we have a few of these upland areas. A second option, we've talked to the DPW, and they said that we could potentially use their vac truck if need be to collect the wash generated, kind of right at the borings. And then we won't have to deal with the pumping.
Okay. Joe, did you want to elaborate at all on your comments?
Yeah, just a little bit. I had a couple of minor comments on some of the flag locations, but they really don't significantly impact the buffer zone or the proposed work. Also, just regarding the exemption, I agree it's exempt under the WPA. Although under the bylaw, it's not quite as clear because the work is occurring within riverfront area. And they're under the bylaw exemption, it's for work that's not within a resource area. So it doesn't appear that the exemption necessarily applies under the bylaw, although the work is clearly within paved right away to the road. Regarding the wash, I like the idea of the back truck. If it is pumped to an upland location, I think they still have to be a little bit careful about runoff from that upland location to a wetland or to the stream. So there might require some erosion control. I don't know how much, what kind of volume of water would be expected to come from those pump holes, from the drill holes, borings. I think that pretty much addresses my comments.
Okay. So to the applicant, do you have any estimate of how the quantity of water that might come from this activity?
So the boreholes will be 2 inches in diameter, or 8 inches plus or minus in diameter to a depth of 20 feet. So overall quantity of water generated should be relatively minor, but we could throw down some straw wattle if it would please the commission in our discharge area, just to ensure we're not causing any erosion or discharge into the wetland areas.
Mhm. Okay.
Through the chair.
Yes.
Yeah, and I would just suggest that either that discharge location be shown on a plan or be approved, maybe with a site visit or some kind of information submitted to the commission prior to actually utilizing it.
Okay.
Through the chair.
Yes, Kim.
Lots of ideas going on here.
Yep.
Sorry.
We'll take it all.
So I'm just looking at the location on Mass Mapper, and so this is Granite Street. This is the Milford Water Company site. So I'm just not sure like what's around that's owned by the town that it could be discharge could be pumped to, other than like the MS4 system, into the catch basin and the town stormwater system. I'm wondering if it's just more appropriate to anticipate this water being released and just require something like a dirt bag, like a corral and a dirt bag. I don't know if that's possible or if a vac truck is easier. Or...
I was gonna say, it might end up that the vac truck is just the way to go, and but so I think maybe we'd be looking for confirmation of what you're gonna use for discharge of wash water. And like Kim said, if it's not the vac truck, then provide measures to, like Kim said, either a bag or in location.
We can definitely accommodate that.
Okay.
Through the chair.
Yep.
I'm sorry if I missed it earlier from Luke. Did we confirm whether it's 2 borings or 4 borings? I think there's some discrepancies between the application and the plan.
There it is 2 borings. So we proposed 4 locations on the plan, just so that when the crew goes to the field, they can decide the 2 best locations, but we are only conducting 2 borings.
Thank you.
Okay, and then I think the only other thing that came up, just probably speak about for a moment, is like you alluded to, Matt, the riverfront and the exemption, whether this falls under an RDA, under the bylaw, given the minor activity designation. Again, I think it kind of falls into a gray area, being that it's under the bylaw. It's within the roadway, it is a minor activity. It's in the riverfront. So I think this is another one that's kind of at our discretion as far as how we think the wetland and the resource area might be impacted. Personally, I think I'm comfortable issuing an RDA as long as that wash water condition is in there to determine how that's going to be taken care of. If anyone else on the commission has any thoughts on that RDA designation for this project.
I would agree. Yeah, it's a temporary activity for design purposes. So I think under the bylaw language that clearly qualifies as a minor activity. The question is, right, it's within 50 feet in the riverfront, and I think in this case, because it's a paved surface, that seems to be okay by me. And we just deal with the wash water.
Yeah. Okay. Anyone from the audience have any questions or comments on this application?
Through the chair, this is Ed. I have a
Oh.
question.
Yep.
I'm assuming this is going to be an open bottom box culvert that's critter friendly?
So this proposed activity now is in advance of the culvert design. So once we conduct our geotechnical borings, we'll provide a culvert design and go through a more robust permitting process. But this is for that initial planning stage.
I know I'm pushing my luck. I'm just making a point. Thank you.
Through the chair.
Yes.
So I happen to know, maybe Luke can't reveal yet. I happen to know that this is a culvert that will be funded through FEMA. So it will be something that's an overall improvement in terms of stream crossing standards.
Very good. All right. So in voting on this and issuing an RDA, can we Anna, do we need to wait for that clarification on the wash water, or can we get condition that with the vote?
I would determine that to either Kim or Judy in this one.
Yeah, sorry.
I would say we can condition in this case.
Okay. Then can I get a motion to go ahead and issue a negative determination with the condition that wash water treatment get squared away, provided to the commission in advance of the work?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All right, all in favor. Ed,
Aye.
Ted,
Ted is an aye.
Janine,
Aye.
Matt,
Aye.
and Heather.
Aye.
And I am also an aye.
Wait, now I do feel bad that we needed to ask Judy and we didn't. Judy, do you feel comfortable coordinating that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Good. All right. Good luck, Luke.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Hi, Carrie.
Carrie was here?
I know, she's so quiet till the end.
I'm always watching.
Thanks.
Thanks.
All right. So we're all set on that. And moving on to our next new hearing, which is another RDA. I will go ahead and read the notice again. The Hopkinton Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, November 12th, 2024 at 7 p.m. virtually online. If you're all persons interested in a request for determination of applicability filed by Jay Gallant to construct an accessible ramp with associated site work. Location is 71 West Main Street, Assessor Map R23, Block 80, Lot 0. All right. Do we have someone representing the applicant on the line?
Yes.
Yes. Great. Would you like to go through the project or have Anna give a description?
I could. So my name is Jay Gallant. I'm the applicant and the architect for the project, working for Mike Glatfelter, who's also here. I could walk through it if you'd like.
Okay, yeah, let us know what you're looking to do.
Okay, so the property was a house when it was originally constructed, and it was converted to commercial use at some point. I don't know exactly when. Clearly, it was a dry cleaner for a while because there's an awning sign that says cleaners. But it hasn't been in use for a while. So my client, the current property owner, wants to open a bakery at the location, and basically the lower area where the awning is going to be a takeout retail space, and then the rest of the building, which is higher, you can sort of see it there. It looks like it was a garage at one point where the retail space is going to be, and then the majority of the house is where the kitchen itself is going to be, where the baking will be done. You know, it's going to be a legitimate commercial kitchen, and it's about 30 inches higher in elevation than the floor level of the retail space. We're doing enough work to trigger full handicap compliance for the entire building. There's in the lower left-hand corner, you see that picture of the back of the house or the back of the building where there's a current staircase and a landing. We want to convert that into a handicap accessible ramp. The ramp would go to the right in that picture to the corner of the building through where the propane tanks will be, which are now, which will be relocated. And there you go. And wrapping around to the parking area. So it'll help for access for any employees that may need to use it, and then also for deliveries. And it would free up the lower space, the retail space, for its highest and best use. And unfortunately, for the construction of the ramp, there's a wetland directly behind the property, which and you see the 50-foot buffer line there. The majority of the structure that we're proposing will be within that 50-foot zone. It is previously developed. You could see in the photograph, and you can see in this drawing, that there's a concrete slab there, and we just want to essentially build on top of it. So the pier foundation that we're proposing, or the screw pile, the metal screw piles, Techno Metal Post is the most common local supplier and installer. You drill through the concrete and then drill through into the ground to set these posts, and there would be 5 of them, and then a landscape paver base and a landscape paver walkway. So we're trying to limit the disturbance to negligible disturbance in order to create the ramp. And we're proposing straw water erosion control, as you can see. And also, it's not noted on this plan, we discussed it with Anna. The shed that's shown there, the big box that says shed, and if you took a look at if you went out to the property, the shed is in disrepair. We want to remove the shed and you know, perhaps use the space for either smaller shed or maybe do some native plantings or both. And that's the proposed project.
All right. So this looks like a great project. It would be great to see this property in use again. Joe, did you take a look at this? You had some comments.
I did go out and take a
Yeah.
look at the property, and reviewed the application. With respect to the wetland, you know, had been previously delineated. There wasn't much left for wetland flagging, but it's a pretty clear toe of slope, fairly steep slope behind the building. There were a couple of flags up, remnants, stubs. So I think it's probably pretty accurate based on the previous location of the delineated wetlands. I don't think there was really any movement of the wetland because of the confining slope. So I didn't really have any issue with the delineation or lack of. As was noted, the rear of the property is previously developed with lawn extending pretty much to the back property line. One of the things that did come up that hadn't been noted previously in other filings is that the mapped intermittent stream to the east of the property, it is mapped intermittent, but if you run a stream stats analysis, it comes out as meeting the criteria for a perennial stream. And I think that some work that had been done previously had been reviewed by a previous peer review consultant and didn't catch that. And when we review this for the COC previously, we generally don't look at the resource areas in detail because they've already been determined under the COC, the order of conditions. But it did come up in this review. The work is located within approximately 150 feet of that perennial stream, so it is in the outer riparian zone. With respect to the ramp being a minor activity, it's again kind of maybe another gray area. Accessible ramps are included as a minor activity under the WPA, but the language also states ramps that are for structures that are accessory to residential structures. Then again, with this being a commercial structure, it's not clear that it would be necessarily considered a minor activity because the language does say accessory to residential structures. The other comment I had was just, I know there was just a mention of possibly removing the shed and maybe doing some plantings. I would just recommended that the applicant show all the work that was being performed within the buffer zone or within 200 feet of that stream on the site plans.
Okay.
That pretty much concludes my comments.
All right. Thank you, Joe. So as part of this application, I think Anna, you mentioned some alternatives. Jay, do you have alternatives for alternative layouts or something that you looked at? Is this the only place for the ramp?
It's not the only place, but it's the most practical.
Okay.
I did a study and sent it over to Anna, but basically we could go around the garage, which is on the left, and still end up in the same place because we have to get access to that kind of main area in order for it to be feasible. So essentially that would put us closer to the wetland because it would be along the back side of the garage. I think what we're proposing has less impact. And if it were in the front of the building, it wouldn't really make sense. And we could do inside the building, we could do some sort of lift. So here goes the letter that I wrote. And then, we could do some sort of lift inside the building, but it kind of kills the space, as you can see. And then there's the ramp that I just mentioned, which would kind of wrap around and still end up in the same place because that's the door. But essentially you see the stairs in there. I mean, the layout of the interior of the space, kind of stairs take up quite a bit of space. We really don't have too many alternatives in terms of using the space differently or creating different entrances or anything like that. And none of what we would propose would really help to change the condition of having the space higher, first of all, and then the ramp that we're proposing seems to be the furthest away from the wetland and the stream and has very minimal impact.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. So I agree that it's, it's a minor, seems a minimal minor impact proposal here with the piles and the ramp. I think the thing that I'd like to discuss with the commission is whether this riverfront area issue would kick it into requiring a notice of intent. I believe based on our discussions that I had with Anna and Kim and Judy, and whether that's something that the commission, would uphold and require for this project, because it is within 200 feet of the perennial stream. Again, it's This is the night of the gray area RDA applications, it seems like. Does anyone have thoughts on that in the commission?
To the chair,
Yes.
just a question for Joe. First of all, Joe, very thorough job on finding that as riverfront. I read the memo and I was like, no, it's not. I had to do it for myself. I was like, it is. So,
Yeah. I was surprised too.
yeah, that was totally a surprising one. It's hard for me to tell on looking at Mass Mapper exactly where the bank or the high water is. If I do it off USGS, it looks like maybe only the right, we'll say plan right half of the property is in the riverfront area. Do you have any idea about where the extent of the riverfront area might hit?
Yeah, I was just doing it off of available mapping also.
Mm-hmm.
And it seemed like proposed work was within about 150 feet at its closest.
Okay. So, I mean, I am looking at this alternatives thinking that this alternative ramp that goes off of the garage does bump it's plausible that it may bump the work out of riverfront.
It might. Again, just relying on mapping at this point and not a delineated stream bank.
Mm-hmm.
But it would be further, yeah.
And this area back here is already previously disturbed. It's grassed based on the photos I'm seeing as well.
That's correct.
Yeah. So I don't know. I just my take, kind of desktop looking at this high level. That may be a slightly less impactful alternative. That's all I had, Melissa.
From a permitting perspective.
From a permitting
From
perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Through the chair.
Yes.
Jay, is this ramp specifically for ADA access compliance?
Primarily.
So would the ramp coming around the garage actually comply, given it's not near the parking stalls?
Well, I mean, technically it would be within what 200 feet or whatever the maximum required distance, but it certainly, you know, the Massachusetts Architectural Access Board regulations is that the parking would be convenient to retail space and or to employee space, and it really isn't if it's in that location.
Yeah, I mean, considering, I mean, in my opinion, considering the ramps on a concrete slab that's already existing pretty much, and the intent is for accessibility, and having the other two alternatives really aren't accessible to those who would need it, I'm okay with this as proposed as a RDA, even though it's potentially in riverfront.
Anyone else? Go ahead.
I consider myself generally more protectionist on the board, but I agree with Janine. I think because of what the current conditions are where the proposed ramp is, it doesn't concern me much. I guess I haven't enough thought through precedent that we're setting tonight with all of these gray area decisions, and that's my only concern, is that an applicant in the future will come forward and say, well, look what happened on November 12th. Why aren't you allowing me? And I guess that concerns me. What we haven't talked about, and maybe we won't tonight, or maybe it's not time. I have more concerns about the shed, about knocking down appropriately, and the proposal of rebuilding the shed. That to me would push my decision concerning an RDA decision one way or the other more than the ramp would.
Okay.
Yeah, agreed. And I know one of the options was, or you know, replanting. I would like to see the space replanted rather than replaced with a shed.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we're amenable to whatever with that. I mean, you know, the shed, if you look at it, clearly needs attention, and just figured we could talk about it.
Okay. I think, as Joe had mentioned earlier, if you're going to address the shed, I think it, as Joe had said, it should be noted on the plan one way or another. Or I guess the way the plan is written right now, I would assume it's not being touched.
We could, yeah, we could definitely leave it or, you know, paint it or whatever too, but it's just, it's gonna need attention eventually.
Mhm. I think you could certainly take it out. I just, if you're going to take it out, I would just call it out like that on the plan. Otherwise, you know, it's just not consistent with what's being approved, and then you're doing something that wasn't approved by the commission. So, I don't necessarily have a problem taking it down, but I would just identify it on the plan if you
Right.
are.
Melissa,
Yes.
I think I would go a step further and say a little bit of give and take, that we will allow this, that I would allow the ramp as proposed as an RDA, but the shed must be removed by hand without machinery, and replanted with natural shrubbery trees. That would help make the gray area of the ramp a little bit easier to stomach.
Through the chair.
Yes, Kim.
I think what you're trying to say, Ted, is that for mitigation for the increase in impervious in the riverfront area, we will ask for the impervious associated with the roof of the shed to be removed.
I was trying to keep it in layman's terms. What was in my head?
Okay. So with that being said,
Melissa,
yeah.
make a comment? I actually, you know, I really agree with what Ted said. I have this gut feeling that it's like the slippery slope issue with, you know, when you, again, I'm new, so, but this idea of notice of intent, yeah, I'm not 100% comfortable with it.
I think that this is definitely a little bit different situation than we had with the other two RDAs, where it was just, you know, an RDA in a disturbed area.
Yeah, through the chair.
Yes, Joe.
And just want to note that under the WPA, if you're working within a resource area, you are supposed to require a notice of intent.
Okay.
Through the chair, this is Ed.
Yes, Ed.
Isn't the entirety of the project of this ramp within previously disturbed areas, just like the previous two?
Yes, but the difference is the riverfront area.
Oh, yeah, I understand that.
Yeah. So I think to Joe's point, or Joe, the point you're making is, it is actually required and not necessarily at our
It is
discretion.
required, but we might have an exempted activity. It's the language says for residential, you know, handicap accessible ramps accessory to residential structures. Which,
but this isn't being used as a residence. Yeah. It's zoned in. Okay. So I guess, so this was submitted as an RDA, correct?
Through the chair, can I just ask a question about the alternative? Granted, it has negative, potentially it's not as desirable, but let's just hypothetically say that it is outside the 150, it is outside the riverfront. Would we need to delineate that, and how does that work?
I think, so Joe, in order to determine where we need to determine where that riverfront line is, correct?
That is correct.
One way or another.
One way or another, right? And from what I'm looking at right now at some of the aerial photos, it looks like there might be possibly some beaver activity in there. That area is pretty well ponded. I don't know if it's how easy it would be to actually find the stream channel, but you know, now it might be a good time if it's water levels are pretty low.
Okay. So that, I think, Jay, you're asking what the effort involved is in that process?
I think that's what I'm asking.
So Joe, it would require
It would require delineating the mean annual high water line of the stream on the west side of that stream bank within 200 feet of the proposed work.
Through the chair,
Yes, Matt.
does the applicant own the abutting property?
No.
Or are we asking them to go on to someone else's property to delineate something and have us confirm it? Because if that's the case, that doesn't feel appropriate. I don't believe it would be appropriate. I think we have to make an estimation of where the riverfront area is and just be in agreement that that estimated riverfront area is acceptable to this commission.
Mm-hmm.
Agreed. And there are certainly times when the rivers have been estimated from aerial mapping.
Okay. But either way, based on what you're looking at, Joe, I mean, we've determined that it would impact this project, and it would.
I'm looking at Mass Mapper right now, and I've got 154 feet from the southeast corner of the building to the stream.
Okay. So I agree with you, Matt. The effort, Jay, would be not actually going in the field on the property, but from the best resources available, translating it onto the plan.
Mm-hmm.
Just a little easier.
Through the chair.
Yes.
It looks like Anna's telling me that we might have information on that adjacent property through the public files, so we could try to look for that as well.
Okay. All right. Does it make sense to, I guess, as far as the commission's concerned, we should just determine whether or not we think this should be a notice of intent at this point in time? Or an RDA? So we could vote on the RDA.
I guess through the chair, I would also leave it up to the is the applicant interested in pursuing the alternate layout? And if so, if it's out of the riverfront, would that change the commission's opinion on the required application?
I suppose we would consider the alternative if it would make the difference between an RDA and a notice of intent. Is that what
Okay.
you're asking?
Yep. If you'd like, we can hold off and continue to the next hearing if you'd like to gather a little more information. Anna's showing some documents here, it looks like, or maybe that's Kim.
Yeah, we might have some more information that we can go through and share. We're kind of just trying to. Yeah, this might be an exercise for offline exercise to grab this information and then extrapolate it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Melissa, real quick question before we move on, as it
Yep.
relates the alternatives and whether we would consider an RDA versus an NOI one way or the other. There was some discussion about the shed and the potential removal of the shed or replacement of the shed. That's going to be in riverfront area regardless. So if the commission's desire is to see that shed removed as mitigation for the work and replaced with plantings, I don't know that it's an either or depending on the alternative. I think it's either an RDA both ways or it's an NOI both ways. Because you can't get out of the riverfront area unless the shed stays.
Right.
So as a commission, I think we should be asking ourselves whether we think the removal of the shed as mitigation for the proposed work is more valuable than the rerouting of the walkway outside of riverfront area. Just my 2 cents.
Mm.
And could I just bring up one more thing? If you feel that if you feel that a site visit might help, we'd be amenable to that if
Mm-hmm.
that's worth
If
time.
if an RDA is if we're allowed to just say an RDA, we're not required to say an NOI. My preference is the original ramp with the shed removed and replanted with natives versus the ramp going around the back and the shed staying.
Through the chair.
Yes, Ted.
I have a question for Matt. Matt, are you suggesting that if the shed is touched, because it's certainly in the riverfront area, that we're almost guaranteed to be an NOI because of work there? Is that what your thought is? Whereas if we allow the shed to stay, then we could maybe keep this an RDA if the shed isn't touched. Is that kind of what you were saying?
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at, right? If we're saying it's an NOI because there's activities occurring within the riverfront area, then either option that touches the shed has activities occurring within the riverfront area, whether it's the ramp coming through the garage or the ramp coming from on the right side of the building. The shed's in riverfront either way.
I misunderstood. I was thinking that since it's mitigation, it was sort of offsetting. So.
Yeah, I mean, from a practical standpoint, the shed going away and being planted with native species would be an improvement, and having the pervious walkway to the wood ramp close to the parking spaces, likely the ADA compliant parking space, would make the most sense. Whether it's riverfront area is involved or not, I'm struggling with how a commercial project wouldn't be subject to an NOI under both the Wetlands Protection Act and our bylaw. I know this is kind of in the gray area, but a septic system replacement, for example, that's more of a public health issue, more of an urgent item to address, whereas a commercial improvement project it doesn't have that public health component to it. So I guess what I'm getting at, the long and the short of it, is this feels more like an NOI regardless.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with Matt, absolutely.
And through the chair, just to throw something else out there, the conversion of the shed to lawn area or pervious area could also be considered a minor activity, an exempt minor activity. But again, the language is accessory to a residential structure.
Mm-hmm.
for conversion, of an accessory structure to lawn. The conversion of impervious to vegetated surface, provided erosion and sedimentation controls are implemented during construction, does not have the caveat of being tied to a residential structure.
Right. No, that makes sense. I think the delineating factor here is the commercial versus residential is a big holds a lot of weight as far as precedent and what we're trying to do here, and the regulations. So I think, Jay, you probably get a sense of the feeling from the board, that notice of intent is probably worth the effort. Or if you want to continue collect the additional information that Kim has, maybe it'll, shed some light on something that we're not seeing right now. You could do that and come back at the next meeting with some more information and hopefully maybe a better decision on whether it should be a notice of intent in your mind, or if you want to proceed with the RDA or switch over to a notice of intent.
Through the chair, this is Ed.
Yes, Ed.
I have a question about this shed. Does this shed have a foundation, or is it merely sitting on blocks?
That we have not investigated. If it has a foundation, it doesn't have a poured foundation. I'm pretty certain of that. It's probably sitting on some sort of block.
If you brought don't laugh, if you brought a crane in or reached out and picked this shed up straight up off the ground so that physically no work was being done on the shed or around the shed, does that get you out of any of this angst? Because the question was about bringing machinery in and working, within the riverfront area. But if you just plucked it out of there, just a thought.
Yeah, I think it depends on which alternative he goes with, and also, it kind of sets the stage for any renovations or any work or anything that you want to do on the property in the future. You're gonna run into the same question. So I think maybe just establishing it up front at this point in time might be in your best interest. Because hopefully things are successful and you might have additional work that you want to do on this site.
Is the next meeting in 2 weeks?
It is.
It probably makes sense to continue.
Okay. Okay, then can I get a motion to continue to the next hearing?
Sure, I'll make that motion.
And can I,
I'll second.
all right, all in favor, Ed,
Aye.
Ted,
Ted is an aye.
Janine,
Aye.
Matt,
Aye.
Heather,
Aye.
and I am also an aye. Thank you. Thank you, Ted.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. All right, we have one more new hearing, 12 Maple Street Extension. Grab my notice. The Hopkinton Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, November 12th, 2024 at 7 p.m. virtually online to hear all persons interested in a notice of intent filed by Nicholas and Kathleen D'Angelo to construct a single-family house with associated site work. Location 12 Maple Street Extension, Assessor's Map U19, Block 41, Lot 0. All right, do we have anyone on the call representing the applicant or the applicant themselves?
Yes, Chris Frateroli, wetland scientist with Goddard Consulting on behalf of Nick and Kathleen D'Angelo. I do believe I saw Nick online as well, perhaps. But in any event, we are proposing a new single-family home on this lot, 12 Maple Street Extension. Thank you, Kim. So if you recall in the spring, I believe April, we were in front of you with an ANRAD for this site, and you did issue an ORAD. So our wetland boundaries are locked in here. The site is essentially entirely encircled by wetland resource areas. Up at the north, which I think this will probably be our biggest topic of conversation, this is the bank to a small intermittent stream. My understanding is that it really never conveys water, but being that it flows out of a resource area, it is an intermittent stream in and of itself. And then surrounding the rest of the site, we have your generic everyday bordering vegetated wetland, mostly forested. Over on the west side, it kind of runs into a little bit more of a swale type feature, but a wetland nonetheless. So existing conditions on the site, it is primarily existing lawn. We do have this current existing dwelling in the southeastern corner here. That's the existing residence of the D'Angelos. And again, most of the site is lawn. You do see that tree line shown around the perimeter there. It's kind of a brushy sort of vegetated area with some trees, especially along the northern portion here. Yep, those are some good photos. Thanks, Kim. So on this one, you mind going back for one moment? Just on the other side of these couple of trees here to the right-hand side of the photo, this is that bank to that intermittent stream. You might even be able to see a blue ribbon hanging there. So in any event, as we move along here, we'll get to proposed conditions on the site. But essentially, oh, and I guess while we're here, we do have this paved driveway that terminates slightly before the existing house and then expands out into sort of a hard packed gravel area as an extension of that Maple Street extension. And there's that stream. Thank you. So our proposed work consists of dividing this lot into two and constructing a new single-family house on the northern of the two lots. Because we are essentially encircled by resource areas, you know, the entire site is within the commission's jurisdiction. That buffer zone you see is the 50-foot, and the entire center of that 50-foot line would be the 50 to 100-foot buffer zone line. We are well aware that we are proposing work very near a resource area and well within the 50-foot buffer zone. We are proposing the construction of this house over entirely existing lawn. I believe there are 2 or 3 trees. Yeah, that's a good annotation there. Thank you. There are 2 or 3 trees kind of in the center of the lawn that will have to come down for the proposed house, but otherwise we are entirely within existing lawn. We're also proposing this paved turnaround, being that this is the end of Maple Street Extension. We're dead ending here. We do need a fairly substantial turnaround for fire access, namely. So the existing gravel area will be paved over and kind of updated, as well as a fire lane easement that will essentially split the 2 proposed lots to allow fire access and fire turnaround in that area. Beyond that, we do have erosion control barriers proposed all around. Due to the pavement, we do have them over here on the eastern property boundary as well, and then around the proposed house. As mitigation for our encroachment into the 50-foot buffer zone here, we're proposing a pretty substantial mitigation planting area to both along the northern property boundary between the house and that stream bank, as well as along the western property boundary of proposed lot 1 there. We're going to be planting about 4,300 square feet with native vegetation. We're going to be removing the lawn, seeding it with a nice conservation wildlife mix, and installing a nice mix of shrubs and trees in that area. We think that serves to protect the interests of the act and the bylaw by providing wildlife habitat value, providing attenuation of pollutants. And I think we are going to scroll down to that planting plan right here. There we go. So this is just a nice colored up version. We are going to be planting essentially all around the northern and western sides of this lot 1 here, as I was just describing. A couple other minor things. We don't have a septic because we do have the good fortune of having town sewer here. So we haven't done any test pits here. We anticipate being fairly shallow to groundwater, and you'll note the foundation drain around the perimeter of the proposed house. That's because we are anticipating being fairly shallow to groundwater. We haven't done any test pits to investigate that yet, but that is our understanding, and that will have a sump pump discharge running off the northwestern portion of the house there. I think that essentially sums it up as far as the proposed work here, and I'd be happy to take any questions the commission may have. I will just say we are also in receipt of Lucas's letter reviewing the project materials. There are a lot of fairly easy things that we are more than happy to address that Joe mentioned in that letter. I think probably the major topic of conversation will be the orientation of the house, which we are already looking at with the engineers and architects, seeing if there's anything that we can do to perhaps relocate or reorient the proposed house.
Okay. Thank you. On that note, Joe, are there any other bigger picture comments that you wanted to highlight from your letter?
I think Chris touched on most of them. Again, the orientation of the house was one of the comments I had thought possibly it could be rotated 90 degrees and might possibly be less impactful or less work within the 50-foot of the wetlands or the stream. I do agree that the stream is fairly minimal and doesn't provide any significant habitat value, although it does have some value. With regard to the proposed planting plan, I thought it looked appropriate. I would just recommend that again, although I know they're not proposing wetland restoration, but I would recommend, as we had discussed previously today, that the numbers meet the either the bylaw or the DEP guidelines for spacing. I think they're showing about trees about 22 feet on center, where the recommendations are generally 10 to 15 feet for trees. So maybe just double check those numbers. The planting schematic had a note regarding PIBs, but I didn't see any PIBs on the plans. Those should be added at some point. I did note that there was one snag dead tree standing out there that would likely be removed close to the stream. Thought the applicant might consider maybe some nest boxes as potential mitigation or potential loss of cavity habitat. I also mentioned that there was no details provided on management of, surface water runoff. At least not that I saw. That should be provided by the applicant. No construction entrance or soil stockpile locations are indicated on the plans. Those should be added. In addition, they should provide some detail regarding dewatering, how dewatering will be handled, because it's probably pretty likely that they might get some groundwater out there. I think it's pretty shallow on the site. The water connection is not shown. That should be added to the plan. Regarding the site plan, there's no vertical datum indicator on the site plan. That should be included. And the site plan, it's a minor note, but one that often comes up. The site plan is not, at least the one that was reviewed, was not prepared in the colors required under the bylaw, and that should be revised to meet those color requirements. With regard to the erosion controls, they looked appropriate. Didn't have any major issues with that. And as far as I know, DEP has not yet issued a file number for the project.
Okay.
Is something I will have to check on for you.
Okay. I think that would just mean more groundwater, more during construction, after construction, that we'd have to think about and deal with. One thing I wanted to bring up on this property in the swale on the north edge there. We had an applicant on Montana not too long ago, adjacent to this property where they were doing some work, and we required creation of a 15-foot wide buffer off of the street, off of the channel there, or off of the wetland, I think, the swale, as part of their mitigation work. So that's something I would just point to as, yep, there we go. I would expect us to uphold the same requirement for the neighbor here. So if you could take a look at that when you're considering relocation of the house or any tweaks that you're going to make to the plan, just look at what we had them do. I know the house right now is within 12 feet, so it certainly is encroaching more than what we allowed on this adjacent site. Yeah, and with that being said, I mean, the owner is splitting the property, correct? So it's
correct.
Self-imposed hardships on any development here. Just remind the commission of that and the applicant. Those are my thoughts in addition to, everything Joe said. That obviously needs a little attention on this plan. Does anyone else on the commission want to share some thoughts looking at this?
To the chair, this is Ed.
Yes, Ed.
And my first thought would be to move the house to the south, which would get more of the house out of the buffer zone. As it stands right now, I'm not terribly impressed.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Ed.
through the chair, if I may.
Yep.
I will just note we are a little bit constrained in terms of having to provide that fire turnaround as far as turning radiuses go, and certain other reorientations of the house that we've looked at would also require additional pavement beyond what's proposed right here. So those are just a couple of the things we're kicking around in terms of considerations as we look at this.
Have you considered any alternatives to traditional pavement for these turnaround areas?
it's certainly something we can look at.
Just my initial thoughts, sort of looking at this plan, I can't help but think there was a reason this was only one lot, or is one lot. That it may not necessarily be feasible to put two houses on it because of the wetlands.
Through the chair.
Yes, Ted.
Looking at things now, this is a hard sell for me. Certainly reorienting the house is something that might make it workable. I think resizing the house is a different discussion as well. I'm only eyeballing the plans, but it looks like the proposed dwelling is 50 to 100% larger than the existing dwelling. And a reorienting and resizing might help, but the addition of all of the impervious surface within the 50-foot buffer is really, really, it makes me uncomfortable.
Thanks, Ted.
Yeah, through the chair.
Yep.
I may be misreading our regulations here, but I understand we do have some discretion on the buffer zone. But the no build zone for a new lot of residential is 50 feet. No buildings are allowed are permitted within 50 feet if you go by the letter of the law. So I'm going to echo the sentiments of the other commission members that this is not only in conflict with our no build setback distance, it feels overly aggressive in asking for our relief.
And I'll add, if I may, Melissa, I think we've been pretty firm and consistent on that 50-foot no build in recent years.
Mm-hmm. I'd agree.
Through the chair, and thank you for those comments, Ted and Matt, and Janine, because my question was, what is the history of allowing for, building within that 50-foot buffer zone? And it seems like the history is that it's not allowed for new builds.
Yeah, I think as a commission, we've done a pretty good job towing that line.
Okay.
Unless there's some, previous, again, that wouldn't be a new construction. Some previous development, previous grandfathering in of lots, that had been permitted, way back, the lots created, historical prior to some of our bylaw requirements. I think we've shown some leniency, but this obviously is not the case because they're creating a new lot.
Through the chair.
Yes, Kim.
I was just wondering if the applicant could walk us through the alternatives that they did to support the waiver request.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you have that handy? I don't have that handy, Kim. I can grab it in a second if you give me 1 second here.
That might be useful. Yeah, I'm not exactly quite sure
Yeah.
where. Hard time.
All right, you're right. Let's see. So the first alternative that we considered, obviously no change to existing. We end up with no house being built and the site remains essentially entirely as lawn. The road and driveway remains unimproved and we lack essentially a fire turnaround there. We also contemplated relocation of the proposed house to be further outside of the 50-foot buffer zone. It really constrains our ability to create that paved turnaround that the fire department's looking for. And it essentially remains as that kind of unimproved hard packed gravel. That may also result in a reduction in the plantings proposed, and lesser tree canopy being installed and habitat value and buffer effectiveness as well on that front. There's also a paper street here laid out as Buckland Street that's shown. the exact legality of developing something like that is a little outside of my expertise. But as I understand it, that may be a viable, or at least a technically allowable alternative here, which would essentially cut through a large adjacent wetland there, which we obviously want to avoid here. And then our fourth alternative we contemplated is that current proposed design that you see in front of you. We do construct a single family home. We're able to install that fire department turnaround that they're looking for. We convert about 4,300 square feet of lawn into naturalized area, and that serves to better protect the wetland resources than simply having lawn in those areas.
Thank you.
Okay. So I think you've obviously, you know, you got Joe's comments to address, and you've gotten a lot of feedback from the board tonight. So you can take that and come back to us. You want to continue out a little farther than the next meeting, or do you think you'll have progress in the next 2 weeks?
We've already kind of had the benefit of talking about this for a few days now. Let's continue out to 2 weeks from now, and if we need a little more time, I'll reach out to the staff.
Okay. Does anyone else have any last minute thoughts, or anyone from the audience before we continue? I don't see any hands or anything. Okay. Can I get a motion from someone on the commission to continue this out to the next hearing?
So
So-
moved.
Second.
All right. All in favor, Ed,
Aye.
Ted,
That is an aye.
Janine,
Aye.
Matt,
Aye.
Heather,
Aye.
and I am also an aye.
Thanks, folks. We've got some thinking to do, and we'll be back to you. Thanks for your time.
Okay, thank you. All right. Um,
Hang on, I lost the agenda. There we go.
yeah, I did too.
Sorry about that.
I've lost it. Okay. Thanks, Kim. All right. So that finished up our new hearings. Continued hearings. 150 Fruit Street. Notice of intent continuation. Did we have anything come in for this one? I didn't see anything in the file.
Through the chair, we did late this afternoon.
Okay.
It was forwarded to Lucas, but I do not believe that Joe had time to review it, and I barely got to look at it. And I don't think Kim or Judy got to look at it either.
Yeah, okay. Is anyone on the call for this
Yeah, this is
application?
Mitch Maslanka with Goddard Consulting.
Okay. Hi, Mitch.
Hey there.
Do you want to run through what you presented? I'm not sure how much we'll be able to do with it, you know,
Sure.
getting it at the last minute, but you can go ahead and present your changes.
Not a
Through the
problem.
chair.
Yes, Kim.
Mitch, do you mind grabbing the screen? I don't even think that I'm trying to pull up your documents, but I don't think I have them ready.
Not a problem. Yep. I should be able to share, looks like.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So last time we were with the commission a couple weeks ago. Actually, can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
All right, great. So last time we were with the commission a couple of weeks ago, we had a few items to add to the site plans for the commission to be ready to approve the proposed single family house. So I'll walk through those couple of revisions, very minor ones. So we have this D series wetland over here. Are you able to see my cursor?
Yes.
Okay, great. So, yep, this is the D series isolated vegetated wetland. So there was much conversation at the last hearing about this area. The commission was agreed to condition that this D series wetland would have stumps and woody debris removed from the area, and that we would show on the plans proposed tree plantings in here. So we've got two red maple, or one red maple tree and two high bush blueberry shrubs. And that area will be restored back to a nice natural isolated vegetative wetland. And then 25 feet off of that wetland, a post and rail fence, wooden fence, was proposed here at the 25-foot buffer zone line, so that this area could be protected. And we have PIBs shown as these small pentagons. So we've got two PIBs there with the post and rail fence. Scrolling down, we have the E series wetland, much smaller. The area is going to be planted with one single red maple tree. And then we have PIBs off of this one. We've got one 25 feet off, and then we added one here 75 feet away, matching up with the edge of forest here. So that'll provide the homeowner with visual PIBs to be able to tell, hey, I can't really go into these woods, clearing vegetation and disturbing soils and whatnot. So we added those along our erosion control barrier here as well. Our limit of disturbance will be marked with a PIB there and a PIB here. So we've got four main ones here. And then we also added some along that pathway back there to alert whatever homeowner that there is this protected forest area here and protected forest area of upland and BBW. So those were the only, and then for the A series wetland over here, this A4 flag was labeled A1 incorrectly, so that has been revised to A4, and we have shown the wetland boundary connecting over to the property boundary per Lucas's recommendation. So that has been done as well. So I believe that satisfies all of the commission's requests for plan changes. But if I'm missing anything, please let me know. Happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, this it's what I remember, but I'm gonna assume that the staff wants data at least a day to get to take a look at it. But Anna, Joe, Judy, if you feel otherwise, let me know. And if anyone from the commission has any questions, comments, speak now.
Through the chair, Mitch, appreciate the updates to the plans and the summary. Definitely helpful to have you walk that through with us. But I personally haven't had a chance to really look at any of the documentation that came in. I suspect the staff's in the same boat, so I wouldn't feel comfortable as a commission member making a decision tonight.
I'm in complete agreement with Matt.
Through the chair, this is Ed.
Yep.
In addition, my question is, these various, and I should probably know this, and you can yell at me later, but these wetland boundary markings, are these recorded in the deed to indicate that the areas on the other side of them are to remain untouched?
So
Through the chair.
Yep, go ahead, Anna.
So the approved plan is attached to the order of condition that is recorded against the deed before the contractor is allowed to start work. It is one of the pre-construction conditions. So while it's not called out specifically on the deed, the plan and the language in the order is linked to the deed.
And then I would add to that typically the PIBs are one of those conditions that's carried through the COC and in perpetuity. So there, when this process is concluded, there are several recordings on the deed showing the plans and the associated PIBs.
Thank you.
Okay. So, I think we're gonna continue this out. Mitch, that's agreeable with you to the next hearing?
So I guess I just want some clarification. If, is there anything that's, you think missing from the site plans?
I guess I would say and echo what the other commissioners said, that, I mean, nothing jumps out at the moment, but we really haven't had a chance to give it a good look and look through all the material to confirm that. Otherwise we would be voting on it, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, do you guys have notes of the previous hearing to maybe run through real quick?
Right now?
Through the chair,
Yes.
if I may add to what you're saying.
Yep.
It's an unreasonable ask of the commission, Mitch, for you guys to submit something a few hours before our public meeting and then expect us to make a decision on the NOI. So to be blunt, if you want us to vote, it's not tonight. Tonight's not the night I would do that.
Yep. No, that's totally fine and understandable. I just don't want to be missing anything if there's something you guys have in your notes from last time.
I'm sure if there's something that comes up when the staff reviews it, then they will let you know in advance of the next meeting.
Okay.
All right, so can I get a motion to continue this to the next hearing?
So moved.
Thank you. And a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor, Ed,
Aye.
Ted,
Ted is an aye.
Janine,
Aye.
Matt,
Aye.
Heather,
Aye.
and I am also an aye. So thanks for the rundown, Mitch, and we'll see you next time.
Sounds good. See you, Commission.
Okay. All right, that got us through our hearings. We have a couple more work session items. Next up, we have Morrow 88 Franklin Road, request for certificate of compliance. Anna, do you have a download on this one?
Absolutely, through the chair. 88 Franklin Road was the construction of an addition to the existing barn on the property. Part of that order of conditions required just over 2,000 square feet of mitigation area. And the order specifies talking about survival and monitoring of the plantings. When the as-built was submitted, it was about only 1,000 square feet of mitigation. Lucas did review it and provided feedback to the applicant, who has increased the size of the mitigation area. A square footage has not been confirmed on the site plan. And it does appear that all the plantings were just recently done. So we don't know if they are going to survive over the winter this year. And I have not gotten a chance to get out there and do a measurement of that proposed mitigation area. So the applicant did request to speak with the commission and has requested the certificate of compliance, but I don't feel that they're quite ready. But obviously it is up to you guys as the commission.
Okay. Thanks, Anna. So do we have someone, the applicant, on the call? Do they want to speak?
Yes, I'm here. Also, I don't know if Dave Marquardon's on the call as well. Dave, you there?
I am here, yep.
Okay, great. So Dave, do you want to kick it off or do you want me to?
Yeah, so the area the east to the right of the barn area was just recently replanted. We had 12 plants that weren't native. Sean aborted that and has recently replanted native plants, a total of 13 in that particular area. We have a row of PIBs, rocks, a row of rocks between the plantings and the barn. And we've also installed 2 posts with medallion closer to the walkway. The area to the east of the new plantings is pretty much to where it was originally in the way of where it was to be restored. The area in question was recently tilled and planted with wild seed mix, is the area between the walkway and the row of rocks, right in that little area there. That was just recently done. But Anna is right, the plants are there, they're brand new, and the seed mix is brand new. The site is stabilized. We have PIBs going all the way to the south of the barn. Barn's right where it's supposed to be. But I think the question that's here is the plantings and if that grass is going to take.
Yeah, and just a little background on that as well. So I was working with my hardscape guy who worked with shrubs and trees to plant what he was told was native trees, native shrubs, which were 2 of the 3 types Lucas said were not approved upon the review. Those were junipers and rhododendrons. So what I did is basically took the Lucas report that was dated October 2nd, went through, made any changes I could to make the site as to spec as the original plan. Went back, but new shrubs, was able to keep the dogwoods. So 3 of the 13 shrubs have been planted since June. And that's kind of the background of the shrubs and the plantings and the PIBs.
Okay. Thank you for that rundown. Appreciate it. So Anna, as you mentioned, you haven't been out on site. Joe has been on. We haven't had anyone on site to actually confirm and look at this since it's been completed, correct?
Correct. The applicant supplied some pictures, but we have not had a chance to get back out on site yet.
Yeah, okay. I think in my opinion, I wouldn't be ready to sign off on the certificate of compliance until we have someone out there take a look and give enough time that the plantings can establish themselves and we can feel comfortable with them surviving. Who knows what the weather's going to do in the next couple months, but that's my thought. Does anyone else have thoughts on the commission?
Yeah, Melissa, I just have a question or thought.
Yeah.
I agree that we need to wait to make sure that the plantings take and live. But if they do, are we at the right square footage now for mitigation? It sounded like we came up short initially. Or do we not know for sure what our square footage is?
I think that's something we would be looking for Anna to confirm in the field.
So that's a question mark as well, whether the plants live and whether we're at the right amount of mitigation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Ted. So what I did was the hardscape guy, again, I guess just didn't follow the plan exactly to spec and planted, not planted, but installed large stones, greater than 2 by 2, which is, you can see kind of along the perimeter. That wasn't tight enough to the building, lessening the square footage area. So what I did to increase that is, installed myself, cedar post, 4x4s with you know, the Hopkinton Conservation Wetland medallions, so that I could, you know, meet the square footage as close as I could.
Okay, but and then it's a seed mix between those posts and the stones?
Correct. That is
Right,
correct.
okay. All right.
Anna or Kim, can you pull up the original plan with that showed the locations of the PIBs?
The little stars are like the
Okay.
PIBs. Yeah.
So really on the final plan, the as-built plan, it shouldn't be the stones that are labeled as PIB, I think, if you go back again. The PIB we don't want that to be the existing line of boulders. We want it to be the stakes.
Yeah, well, so really it's a combination. So I followed the form the WPA form 5, item 59, and used a combination, I guess, for the revision, a combination of the large stones and the cedar posts with the medallions.
Okay. I think, Dave, we might need something to clarify that on the plan. You know, so when it's recorded and the next person who wants to do something here or is looking at what that PIB line is, it's clear.
Are you allowing the row of rocks to act as the PIB?
Well, it sounds like there's a combination right now of rocks
Right, yeah.
and posts. But that's
Yeah.
not what we approved as far as the actual line in the sand.
Right.
So it's a
And
little confusing looking at this plan and seeing that note that says PIB existing line of boulders outside of where the two stakes are in the ground. The one on the back side is fine, I think. The PIB existing, yeah, that one right there. But then once you get on the other side of the barn, it transitions.
And Melissa, if I may, it's not only confusing on the plan, it would be confusing in the yard. And we have seen so many of those posts recently completely ignored by homeowners. I think we need a much more clear delineation of the PIB in real life and on the plan.
So is it, Ted, are you suggesting to go above and beyond the form WPA 5?
I'm not sure what I'm suggesting. I think I'd really want to see the yard more than I would and you did show a picture, I know, or Kim did. But what I know is if I were a new homeowner, if you sold the house to me and I saw those rocks and a couple posts, I would assume the rocks are the PIBs. And I would be mowing the lawn right up to the rocks. If not moving the rocks and saying, I want some more lawn. Because the rocks don't have any indication on them either.
Yeah, but I guess even with the post and the medallions though.
We are seeing all over town, people completely ignoring posts and medallions. And so to make it even more confusing by having two lines, I just think it's a recipe for the whole thing to be a waste of time.
Okay, I mean, I tried to follow that.
No, I
form.
understand that. And I think we've had discussions about updating that form. I get that you're trying to follow it. I don't know that what is out there now is going to make any sense to anybody. If the rocks were pulled up along with the posts, that would make some sense, I think. But to have two different lines, I think is probably a bad plan.
Yeah, I think that's what it comes down to for me too, having two things that we commonly use for PIBs shown in two different locations. Be confusing.
Okay. yeah, I suppose I could have get a bobcat back there and just push the stones in line with the posts.
I think that would be the best case.
I concur.
Okay.
With regards to the plantings establishing, I guess, how does that typically work? Obviously, we're, approaching winter. Does that mean that this is going to get delayed all the way out until springtime, or how does that typically work?
I think in the past, what we've seen is if there's not assuming there's not an urgency to close out the COC, we like to have the time to see things establish. If there's some reason, a house closing or something like that, sometimes we'll look at exceptions. In the past, am I speaking out of line there, Hannah or Kim? I think we like to see them established in this, in the spring season.
Yeah, through the chair, it is a typical practice for the commission to see at least, one growing season. I know it's been unseasonably warm, but November is it is pushing it for plantings. So just having that confirmation that they're going to come back in the spring is helpful.
Through the chair.
Yes,
This is really a question for you, I think. I think we had the approved plan up a couple of minutes ago. Can you help me understand how we got from these PIB locations to those posts that look like they're in a different location? I'm having a tough time following. Right, we've got
Yeah,
the
I mean,
stones, like,
so
we see the stones
basically,
now.
basically, Matt, I knew that from the feedback from Lucas, like I knew that my hardscape guy installed those boulders too far out. I couldn't physically move them myself. So I thought a solution would be to install the cedar posts. And I wanted to do, if anything, have it tighter to the building than at least what I saw on the plan, just so that the commission would be, favorable of that solution.
Gotcha. Okay, I apologize if I missed that earlier. I was trying to play catch up. I'm not familiar with this particular property, but so it looks to me, if I'm reading this correctly, in the north-south, the first 1, 2, 3, the first 5 stones starting from the southern end look like they fall in line with the PIB locations on the approved plan. And then what should have happened was they followed that 50-foot buffer line to the corner, basically to the corner of the building, and then came straight north on that blue line Kim has drawn on the plan sheet. I'm just looking at it from the perspective of you've been overly conservative with one of those markers from my perspective, and I don't want a homeowner to have to give up additional yard area that wasn't part of the original approval, right? So I don't know if you're following me, Kim, if you can draw this out. Yes, thank you.
I think you kind of did, yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
So that area on the southern half where you've got that PIB stake, you've actually, some of that lawn area that was approved as lawn. I would hate to see you give it up, right? So if you're gonna move these boulders back, which it sounds like you're open to doing, I would suggest doing so in a manner that's consistent with the original approved plan to both meet what the commission's expectations are and to maximize your area of lawn that was approved through the process.
Understood. Yeah, and if anything, I just want to be on the more conservative side, just because I'm just trying to be as consistent as I can to the plan. And if anything, I'd rather be on the more conservative side than anything.
Okay. Any further questions? Does that make sense? Are we on the same page, you think?
Yeah, I mean that. So I guess from my perspective, my job is just to make sure that these shrubs survive the winter. Maybe can bring in some straw, and then just get the boulders pushed in to be just in line with the original plan or even tighter. And at that point in time, I guess, is there any other items with the plan that that the commission sees as like an issue?
Yeah, no, the only thing I would add to that is just Dave moving those boulders when you move them on the plan, to reflect that movement in the field. I think that was it. That's what I understood from the comments. And then we would have Anna go out and check it in the field.
Through the chair, it
So
would be
sh-
helpful on the revised as-built plan, once those moved, for that square footage number to be added to verify, for the engineer to verify for that versus my math skills.
We can do that.
And it would be best to reach out in the spring, so you could look at the boulders and the plantings at the same time.
I think so. Yeah.
Through the chair, yeah. If we have the revised as-built from Marquardon, and then we can, staff can verify survivability of those plantings in the spring.
All right. If you're all set, I don't think we need to vote on that. I think we just invite you back when you're ready.
Yep.
All right.
Thanks, Commission.
Good.
Yep. Thanks for coming in.
Great. Thank you.
All right. Last up, we have 34 Downey Street. This is another request for certificate of compliance.
Through the chair, I'm happy to speak on 34 Downey Street.
Yes, please.
So 34 Downey Street was an after the fact notice of intent for a dock and a boat lift on Lake Maspinock. The applicant has obtained the Chapter 91 approval as required in the order. When the applicant applied for the certificate of compliance, they did not include the required plan with the PEPLS or PLS stamp, stating that it was after the fact, nothing had changed. So I did advise the applicant they can request a waiver of that condition from the commission if the commission so chooses. So they have requested that waiver. Lucas Environmental did go out and do a site visit, noting that the site is stable, but without that PEPLS stamp and statement, they can't verify whether or not anything has changed since the original dock and boat lift was put in. And Lucas also noted that there's no required signage of the public passage as part of the Chapter 91 approval, although it is not part of the commission's approval. So at this point, I think the commission needs to decide whether the PE or PLS statement is required, or if this meets the commission's okay to issue the certificate.
Okay. So Joe, you were out there? Did you take recently?
Actually, it was Devin who was out on this site. I did not view the site myself.
Okay. All right, and we have the applicant here on the line. Is that correct?
That's correct. Hi, Paul Picard.
Hi. Thanks for hanging in here with us for the long haul. Did you have anything to add to what Anna outlined?
I just wanted to clarify that the NOI was not for the dock. The dock has been existing for, I don't know, 50 years or something. I'm not sure how long, well before I was here. It was only the addition of the boat lift. The Chapter 91, though, did include the boat lift, the dock, and all the retaining walls.
Okay. So what the stamp was supposed to be for was that the deck didn't change. Is that right, Anna?
The boat
the
lift.
The lift. Okay.
Through the chair, if I can
Yes.
speak on the location of the boat lift. Because this was after the fact, we had a survey as part of the commission's request when we were at the NOI. So we had a land survey which located it. It hasn't moved. It's adjacent to a wall that's been there since 1950s or so, next to the dock. So at this point, to incur a cost just to say it hasn't moved seems like it was unnecessary.
Yeah.
In addition, I mean, this isn't secured to the ground anyway. This is just placed on the bottom of the lake.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I mean, that seems reasonable to me to issue that waiver, that it hasn't moved. And so you are aware of the Chapter 91 access sign requirement? That's not under our purview, but
Yeah, I do need to get one made up. It was, I thought it came with the permit, but it didn't. And then I honestly just forgot about it.
okay, we'll take care of that. Does anyone on the commission have any thoughts or concerns with issuing a waiver for that PLS requirement? Okay. Hearing no concerns, I think we'll go ahead and ask for a motion to issue the waiver as requested. Can I get that
So I'll make that motion.
Okay. Thanks, Ted. Can I get a second?
Through the chair?
Yes.
Do you want to amend that motion and also issue a certificate of compliance?
Yes. Good idea, Anna.
That's exactly what I want to do.
Does anyone want to second that?
This is Ed, second.
All right. All in favor, Ed, Ted,
That is an aye.
Janine,
Aye.
Matt,
Aye.
and Heather.
Aye.
And I am an aye. So you are all set, Mr. Pickard.
Thank you very much. Have a nice evening.
Thank you, you too. All right. That's it. No public forum requests.
Not tonight.
I think. Okay. All right. I think that's it. We can all officially welcome Judy. Today was her first day.
Hi, Judy.
Longest
Welcome.
first day ever, Judy.
Seriously.
Learned a lot today.
Good. Hopefully you didn't get too overwhelmed. And you can, spend the next couple weeks recovering before you're running a meeting for us. So, but you have Anna, so
Yes.
it'll be fine. So,
And I would just want to say hi, Heather. I didn't get to say hi last meeting. Welcome.
Oh, hi.
That's right. You weren't here on our first one, were you, Janine? Okay, and Kim, we get to say, thank you for coming to another meeting. Bonus encore by Kim.
Absolutely. But guys, this is really, really my last one.
We've heard that
Oh,
before.
no.
Like, seriously.
All right, can I get a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Second.
All right, all in favor, Ed,
Aye.
Ted,
That is not.
Janine,
Aye.
Matt,
Aye.
Heather,
Aye.
and I am also an aye. Thank you all, and have a good rest of your night.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Good
Good night,
night.
everybody.
Thank you.